So Kate, tell us about the Be Fearless campaign.
Well, first, thank you, Ben, for having us. I feel like I'm really kind of punching above my weight on this panel. It's such amazing people. So thanks for having me. So the Case Foundation, just a really brief background on us. We are the family foundation of Gene and Steve Case. Steve, who is maybe most famous for starting AOL. What people don't know about Gene, his wife, is that she was also in the trenches at the beginning of AOL too as its marketing and communications director. So when you think about trying to sell something that didn't exist before, in-home internet, we think that they're really two amazing people. Case Foundation focuses on a few different things. We focus on entrepreneurship, we focus on technology for good, we focus on civic engagement, and we focus on sort of how do we engage the next generation in the work that we're doing. But sort of across all of those program areas, what we really say we like to focus on is sort of platforms that let people do the work that they care about better. And we also talk quite a bit about sort of, Steve Case talks about this, and especially regarding the private sector, and he says, there's attackers and there's disruptors, and defenders, sorry. There's attackers and there's defenders. And the defenders are sort of the old guard that are protecting the way that we've always done things, and it's in their interest to keep doing things the same way we've always been doing it. And then there's the attackers who say, no, I want to change. I don't think this product is good enough, right? I don't think this social service is good enough. I don't think my government is good enough. And we're really focused on supporting those attackers who want to change the way that that the world is moving. So we turned 15 last year. And like everybody, when you turn a big milestone year, you have sort of some soul searching that you do. And we brought in some folks to sort of help us think about ways that we could, how are we doing? How have we done the last 15 years? Where should we go for the next 15 years? And, we did some of our own soul searching and, things we were proud of, things that we weren't so proud of. And we did some soul searching about what we thought philanthropy as an industry, how they were doing. And we came up with this idea that, we should be more fearless as a foundation, and we would love to be able to bring the rest of the philanthropy industry along with us as we think about the ways that we operate in the world. And so, like you saw in the video, we sort of came up with these principles, for lack of a better word. We said make big bets, right? If philanthropy can't take the big risks, then it's hard for us to ask anyone else to do so. We would love to be sort of the first in, first loss capital. We'd love to be the folks who are supporting people who have an idea that might be crazy, or it might change the world. We talk about sort of making failure matter, right? And I think we'll talk a little bit more about that, but we all understand that with big risks and big bets, sometimes come big failures. We don't like to talk about it, especially I think as a field. Philanthropy doesn't like to talk about it.
Well, let's talk about that for a second.
Sure.
I mean, what does it mean to fail forward? What does it mean to learn by failing? Let's just,
Yeah, so Gina and Steve, who are our founders, come from the technology industry, right? Where it is almost a badge of courage to have sort of in your back pocket all of the things that you failed on, before you hit it big, right? Or while you're trying to make it big. And because folks say, I learned huge, from my, huge, spectacular fall. That's the time that I learned the most. And I think we all have experienced that in our personal lives. And I think we're hoping that that as a sector, we can sort of walk together and have more of a culture of saying, you know what, it's okay if we fail sometimes. It's okay to try something different because, we recognize that that's what's going to be necessary to really change the way that we're doing business. And so we're trying to take some lessons from folks who, have said, nope, I'm wearing this as a badge of honor, that I failed.
So what does that look like in your day-to-day? How are you guys being fearless now? How are you failing forward?
So we're trying some things that are honestly, fairly uncomfortable for us, while sort of encouraging others to sort of walk with us in this world. So we're starting on impact investing, and I know we're all going to talk a little bit more about that. But we're starting on impact investing partly because we've seen, again, in the industry, there's really sophisticated philanthropists, there's really sophisticated investors, but there's almost this wall in between how people think about their investing and their philanthropy. And all of the incredibly sophisticated structures that they apply to their investing, they don't necessarily apply to their philanthropy. And so we are starting sort of an initiative to, for ourselves and to encourage others to figure out, how do we mobilize this huge amount of resources that comes from, endowments or, other investment vehicles toward the social sector, and how do we sort of really start to move the way that people think about investing versus philanthropy, and that it's not necessarily a bad thing to think about, applying real investment principles to the philanthropy work that they're doing. So that's sort of one example of, and for us it's kind of scary because we've honestly been doing the same thing. We have the foundation, and we invest separately, and it has nothing to do with the foundation, and so we're really thinking about how we walk forward and start to learn and experiment and probably fail in the next year, and learn from those failures.
Do you guys have a way that you talk about the failures? Do you have a system of kind of reviewing what the failures have been?
We try hard to talk about them as much as possible, and I think, do we have a system? No. I think a lot of people don't like the word failure, right? And so, all right, fine. So let's talk about it as learning. Let's talk about it as, pivoting. Let's, whatever sort of language you want to use. But I think we definitely don't talk about failure as the end. Oftentimes it is the beginning of the next thing.
Right. And you're talking really about being fearless, about working, investing beyond your fears.
Right.
The hope that some miracle will happen.
Right. Let's live with it,
Fabulous.
and let's own it, and let's walk forward.
Excellent. Thank you. Lori Silverbush, producer and director of A Place at the Table. We're going to watch the screen, and then we're going to come back and we want to talk to you about the power that film has to create greater consensus and insight, and ultimately have a real impact on social issues. But let's take a look at the screen first.